Past players, past legends, past legends.
Competing against the men's comp
And the finals.
and all that, and you play that, and then you keep going. Well, you never leave a movie and then have the matinee afterwards. And I think they've got the seasons wrong personally.
Well, Malcolm, if someone from the AFL is listening to this, they would have heard my opinion, which is pretty much the same as what you said a million times over, and they're sick to death of me. So I'm not going to go through it all again.
Yeah.
But I think moving the seasons was wrong. I would move it back. I would start it in October. I would have a break for Christmas, play the minor round up to Christmas, have a break for Christmas, play the finals through January and early February before the men's season starts.
Yep.
And I think you would find that you would get an uplift in TV, you would get an uplift in attendances. That's the Phil Harper philosophy, which is a bit the same as yours.
Yes, we've spoken about that enough times, Harps. Yes.
Yeah, and I've said it a million times at various meetings, so it's not going to be anything new for the AFL. That I don't have to agree with the AFL and everything. And, that's one.
I was being careful there.
Yeah, that's one thing that I strongly believe in. In the end, that's not my role to make a decision on it. I can have a strong opinion, and I've put that opinion forward many times. And doesn't mean my opinion's right, of course, but they know very well my opinion on that.
While we're on that, Harps, and I don't, because it is the AFL, I don't think it is the best idea for you to comment. But I always say, and I admire your diplomacy, but I think the treatment you copped in particular, and Stephen Trigg to a very slightly less extent, where you got suspended over the whole Kurt Tippett affair, was the most gross in terms of punishment. For it'd be like getting charged for shoplifting in terms of getting a murder sentence for shoplifting. I think it was disgraceful. It wouldn't have happened to a big Victorian club, and we'll leave that one at that, mate.
Look, in the end, all I'd say to that one was, out of everything that's negative in life, I think you can always find a positive. And to me, what happened in that period there was that my true friends came to the fore and rallied around me, and it was a great filtering job for me that, all of these people that I thought were my best mates before, there's not as many of them. There's a core 25 people or something.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Other ones that look after you, and I remember having the same discussion with Taylor Walker. He got in trouble there at one stage, quite rightly so. But I said, what you'll find is if you work through this well enough, it'll be a great filtering session for you to find out your real mates. And he came back to me, probably 12 months later and said, you know what, you were 100% right there. So sometimes you can find positives in negatives.
Yeah, no, Taylor and I have spoken about that's another story as well there. Yeah.
All right, let's move on from that. You have mentioned it a couple of times, mate, and it's probably remiss of us not to sort of touch base about it, was COVID. I know it was a few years ago now, but what were the challenges not only for the women's comp just getting started, but also for the men's comp as well?
Well, look, that was a difficult time, not only for us. I mean, the good part for me is I think I got laid off and was on JobKeeper for 8 weeks, but then I had to come back and we had to put a team together, get the team going, travel them around Australia, or we went up to the Gold Coast and lived in a hub and played games in front of no spectators. So it was a difficult time. But it was a difficult time for everybody, probably not difficult for us, living in a hub on the Gold Coast, being allowed to go for a run and a swim down the beach and then go and watch a game of footy without any spectators. That was a lot easier than, my daughter who lived in Melbourne, who pretty well couldn't come out of her house for, nigh on a year or two. So a difficult time for footy, but probably a more difficult time for just people in general.
No, totally understand that. It was just more along the lines of how did the footy club, how did they have to deal with that, and what were some of the takeaways from that, because it was a unique situation, not only from everybody from a personal point of view, but also from a sporting point of view.
Well, yeah, all of a sudden your revenue dries up a fair bit, so
Yeah.
that makes that makes it very difficult. But that, again, out of a really negative situation, mate, if all our 18 clubs, with the help of the AFL and the government and everyone, can survive that, then we can pretty well survive anything, sort of thing.
it's a fair way of putting it.
The game is strong enough to survive something like that was out of control, and maybe there was an overreaction. But when you're sitting there watching your TV and you're seeing semi-trailers full of bodies getting carried away
Exactly.
in New York, you think, wow, this is pretty serious. So it's understandable that people got pretty spooked by the whole thing. And like, I had a dad at the time who was 92, and I was very protective of him because I didn't want him to get it, because that probably would have spelt the end of him, sort of thing. So, life and death is a bit more than footy, but if footy and all of us can survive that, then life's pretty good.
Sure. I know Malcolm might know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, and for the benefit of the listeners, is the decision to move to Nord Oval for the women's program. How did that come? How did that come about?
Well, we went to Theberton first of all, but they really didn't have the. There was only sort of one coach's box, and the other coaches had to sit in the grandstand. We've played at a few different ovals, but as Malcolm said before, I mean, you can get 12 to 14,000 people into Nord Oval. You can put most of them under cover, and when you're playing at that stage in the middle of the summer, or even like we played in a final the other week when it was 37 degrees, people can actually come in and still set up in that big grandstand and be not getting scorched. It's close to the city. It's a great, and hence why they pick it for the gather round and all that. It's a great oval. It's a great atmosphere, and it's perfect for our people. And you've got people who can come there after work. So we love having night games there. People can come there after work, have a couple of beers with their mates, cheer the Crows on, and see how they go. And the alternative, we played some games at Unley, which is, it's got the park right next to it. The kids are on the swings. Mum and dad can come and watch the game of footy while the kids are occupied on the swings. It's a great family atmosphere for a sort of a 12 noon Sunday game to take the family out. And it's interesting, the crowds in our women's. I've always said, I reckon there's three parts to our crowds. There's a third of them who are probably, they're mad Crows. I come to Crows tiddlywinks, come to Crows whatever. You put Crows on the front of it, they'll turn up. So that's a third. The next third is mad Crows supporters who've got young families, but they can't afford to go to Adelaide Oval, because by the time you buy the tickets, the food, a bucket of chips, a Coke, it's cost you $350 and a family
crazy,
can't
isn't it?
afford that.
Yeah.
But they can afford to come to Nord Oval and have a sausage sizzle and come in for either free when it was, or $10 for the adults. I mean, you can get away with a great day out with your kids for probably $20 or $30 instead of $350. So that's the other third. And then the last third, I feel, is social media. All these girls and their friends and their friends' friends and their friends' friends' friends are on social media. And so we get a lot of people who aren't really real footy heads, but they're just friends of the girls, and they come and they want to support their friends in it. And then, I'd say that, Malcolm, you're probably right. We don't tap into the people who are actually playing the game and get enough of them there. But that's something for the future.
Yeah, no, I'll have a chat to you, away from here about that, Phil, and because I do think it's a really vital area in that regard, and it was.
And if we're serious about increasing our crowds, that's an area that we can really tap into a lot better, I think.
Yeah. Righto, Phil, we do have to ask, how did you cope with maths and that side of things? I reckon I know you well enough. You would have been cringing when your illustrious daughter blew past the idea in the first place. And how did Caroline handle it as well, and that side of things, mate?
Well, it's an interesting one, you say that. Well, so she was a late call-up. So she was down here from, she lives on the Gold Coast, and she was down here from the Gold Coast, and she gathered us together, which doesn't happen very often. She said, "Oh, look, this is what I've been offered to do. What do you reckon?" And I've just put my head in the hands and gone, "No, no, no." And Caroline says, "Oh no, I think it'd be a good idea." I said, "What?"
Wow.
And then our son Matthew was there as well, and he said, "Yeah, no, I reckon it's a great idea. You lift your pro." I said, "Well, hang on a minute." I said, "Like, this is all like on TV. People are going to hang it on you and all that." And, "Oh no, well, I can handle all that." I said, "Well, do anyone from the family have to go on it as well?" "Oh yeah, well, there'll be sort of get together." Caroline says, "Well, if there's cameras around, I'm not going on." And I said, "Well, hang on a minute. That's the whole show, is about cameras and everything. So you're out. What about you, Matthew? Are you in?" No, 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 not if there's cameras around. I'm out." So I said, "Oh, good old Muggins, he'll get the go again." Anyway, so I went up there 3 times, but I was really careful not to say anything too controversial, so I didn't get much airtime. So, but look, as an experience, she loved it. In the end, she really liked the guy that she was with, which was, she said that was 100 to 1 that she'd actually liked the person.
Yeah, I
before
did
she
wonder
went
on that.
there. But she really did like him. They stayed together. It started in August. It didn't view till January, and they were still a couple till April, and then they broke up and they've gone their own ways. And he's a world champion Muay Thai. In fact, myself and Caroline ended up. He defended his title on the Gold Coast on the 16th of December last year, and I still can't believe it. I turned to Caroline and said, "I can't believe we're sitting ringside at the World Muay Thai Championship." But we went there and loved it. And look, he was a nice guy, and they hadn't ended up together, but they had a great time when they were together. So it ended up being a good experience. But as I said to you right at the start, I'd never seen an episode before, so that was interesting when I was trying to get interviewed. And they said the experts said this, and I said, "Well, who's the experts? What's going on there?" So I wasn't good value on it. But they had a great time, and it's another great life experience. And it's ended up, she works, she had a full-time job where she was the boss of a recruitment agency for nurses and doctors and things like that. She's had to give that away because now she's got 300,000 followers and she advertises all these things. So, well, she hasn't given it away. She's had to drop down. She dropped down from full-time to 4 days, now to 3 days a week, and she spends the other 2 days a week doing her, what do they call that stuff?
Oh,
Influencer.
Yeah, that's it.
Influencing or whatever she does.
Yep.
But in the end, I've always said to my kids, what you need to do in life is see if you can find something that you really, really like.
Yep.
And then see if you can get some bastard to pay you to do it.
Yeah, it's a fair way of putting it. Yep.
And that's what she's done. She really likes the fashion and the makeup and all that, and she advertises it all, and people look at it and buy it because she's advertising it. And so I say, oh, well, in the end, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Caroline was right. And she
Seriously,
said, go
good
on,
luck.
maybe
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
Mate, this might be a controversial call, but Malcolm, you need to send her a book.
Yeah.
You need to send her a book to promote.
I've got Harps has got one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bit of fun
I
there.
can give her mine, but the only people that read the book, she's got over 300,000.
No, go for it. Yeah.
And they're basically 94% of females between 25 and 50. So they'd still read your book, Malcolm.
Oh, I would hope so, Harps. So it'd be an education for them anyway, Phil.
Volume 2 needs to be a women's only edition.
Yeah, I think there's more chance of me going on there. So back to the serious side,
Yes.
Phil. So in terms of female footy, and it is a little bit of a worry, the numbers drop off. Now, I know too, and injury studies in terms of the knee, the ACL in particular side of things, and there's some studies there of which a well-known trainer in Adelaide's had a lot to do with. And again, please, it's not meant to be controversial and being said because it's three males talking, but it is a fact of life, the time of the month, and trying to see if there's any link there in terms of injuries and physiology
change.
with the hips and just and all that side of things, trying to study there. And obviously the concussion side. But the ACL has been a big thing. And we had a women's, it was between all the colleges, St. Anne's, St. Mark's, Aquinas and all that. And it was women as well this year, Phil. And I'd virtually roped in the best couple of players to play for uni. And one of the girls' best friends did her ACL with a minute to go in one of these games, and that was it. One of the girls said, "No, I just can't afford the risk to get injured." So it's that sort of a thing. There is a worry, and I don't think any of us know of a solution. But I think the studies on that side of it are important. And just where else do you see women's footy going, and all that side of things, Phil?
Well, obviously the ACL injuries is more prevalent in women than men. The studies have shown that. I will give the AFL credit; they're doing a lot of research on it, lot, and our girls in particular have to do a lot of, I don't know what you call it, prehab on their knees to try and strengthen their knees to try and avoid that. But it's real what you've just said, because an old teammate of mine, Richard Champion, and his wife Anne Marie, I caught up with Anne Marie and their two girls last weekend, and his daughter Grace was apparently pretty good at the footy and she played it up there, but then there was so many of her friends doing their ACLs that she's quit because she doesn't want to do an ACL, and that is a worry for her. So I don't know the solution, but I do know that the AFL are doing a lot of study on it to try and get an outcome that will try and prevent and at least decrease the incidence of ACLs, because even if you look at our team after the 2000, we had two did the ACLs in the grand
final,
in the 53,000 game in Chloe Shear and Aaron Phillips. The next year we came straight out and Chelsea Randall did hers, and then we had 5 out for the year 5, and we haven't had that many ACLs, but we had 5 in 1 year, which decimated our year in that particular year. So it's a worry. It's something that the AFL are worried about. It's something that they're doing some serious study on, and all the clubs do some serious prehab routines to try and lessen the likelihood of it. But it's still a thing, and and it is a worry because it's more prevalent in the women than the men.
Yeah.
Could it to do with fatiguing, whereas women playing netball, it's very stop-start, quick movements, whereas running, diving, changing directions.
Who knows?
It could be. I'm not an expert.
No.
Who knows?
I think that the time that Chelsea Randall did hers, it was in the first 5 minutes of training, and she just quickly changed direction, and no one touched her. It just went. But there's a tall girl that played, an Irish girl, Anya Ty, that plays for Fremantle. She's only been there for 5 years or 6 years, and she's done it 3 times already. Yeah. So that is not good. She's a very good player, but I wouldn't like to see my daughter go through 1 ACL, let alone 3. So it's a real thing, and it's something that the AFL are really looking into, and we appreciate them doing that.
All right, Harps, to close us off, best players played with, best players played against, and let's go even on the female side. Favourite players to watch. We better include a female side there as well.
Absolutely.
Harps.
All right, well, let's go one at a time. Best players I played with would be Phil Carman, Alan Jakovic. Like, he was unbelievable. Like, he had more ability than anyone I've ever played with. I've only played a few games with him, but Jason Dunster wasn't a bad footy player either. Played a couple of state games with him up in Queensland. So they're the 3. What was the next question?
Hardest against?
Yeah, hardest players, hardest opponent.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Well, I found them all hard, so that doesn't help.
You're better than that, Harps.
I don't. had to pick out one opponent. Well, I tell you, the one opponent that used to get me every time I played up in Queensland was a lad. He ended up playing for the Brisbane Lions in the end. He played quite a few games. It was a lad called Danny Dickfoss.
Yeah.
And every time I played on him, like we'd play Windsor-Zillmere and he'd walk over and I'd go, oh, no, not him again. And he'd give me an absolute toweling. So I'd say he was my hardest opponent, Danny Dickfoss. But, yeah, there were some great players that I played on here in South Australia. John Riley from North Adelaide.
Yeah, bloody good player, Riley.
Yeah, Justin Scanlon from Norwood was a bloody good footballer. Brenton Claby was a hard bloke to play because he belt me around all day, but he's a bloody great fella, Claves. I like him. Roy Laird, I played on out at Centrals a lot. I played on the Stringer brothers. I seemed to play on a fair bit when we played Glenelg. So, there's a lot of good players in South Australia, but probably Danny was the one. I'd try and play as a forward up there, and if he came to me, that was pretty well the end of the penny section.
And favourite women's players, mate?
Well, I'm biased because I see ours all the time, but I think Chelsea Randall's one of my favourite players to watch.
Yep.
Men or women. It's as though you're watching it on TV when you're sitting in the coach's box and you can see her coming out the corner of the TV set and something big's going to happen when she's coming in for it. So Chelsea would be my favourite, but Erin was pretty good player when the whole comp started. She was
one. Yep.
She was at a different level to the rest of them. Yeah.
Hey, Harps, greatly appreciated, mate. Also, we better quickly add, I am the best umpire you've seen in Adelaide. That's a story as well, which was quite amusing that day. Harps.
Am I allowed to tell that story?
Yes, mate.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yep. Go for it.
All right. So I went out. My son decided he played at footy at St Michael's when he was a young fella, and he hadn't played for 3 or 4 years, and he decided to go back out to St Michael's. So he went out and he said, I'm playing in the D grade today, Dad. This was his first game he had played back. Anyway, I rock out to Adelaide Uni, and what do they call them? The Scum at Adelaide Uni.
Yeah.
So they're playing against the Scum, and Matthew's playing in number 19 or whatever. He's about 6'6". Anyway, he played all right, but not great. And Malcolm come over to me and said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, my son's playing." He said, "Oh, what one's he?" I said, "Oh, the big 6'6" bloke, number 19 or whatever."
It was best on ground by a bloody mile.
I said, "Fair enough." Anyway, I saw Malcolm a week later and he said, "Mate, I tried to give your son the best on ground, 3 votes, but number 19 was, like John Smith."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, well, maybe he hasn't been registered yet."
Yes. Let's just
he said,
say,
"Oh, well, John Smith's just got 3 votes anyway."
Yeah, let's just say that the team I've got and said the guy was, "Do you want another drink? You want it?" "No, look, it's fine. It's the same thing. It's amateur league. It's no dramas, and all that." Yeah, we better leave that one at that. Yes. It was funny though. Yes,
it was funny because you were looking up for somebody Harper on the team.
Yes, there was no Harper there. No. He was adopted for the day there, mate.
Yes, he was adopted by the Smith family.
Yes.
Absolutely love it.
Yes. Hey, greatly appreciate it, Harps, and touch base soon. Thanks, Phil. Greatly appreciate it,
talk to you guys. Well done. See you.
Thank
Bye.
you, mate.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.